Hey, what's up, everybody? Eyecee here. Hope you guys had a great week 4. I know I did. Sunday started off a little rough, but the 4 p.m. games really made it up for me. And last night I came in third in a Showdown slate GPP. So that was good. And so far in the season, I've been on a little bit of a hot streak. I've been winning um, quite often. I only had one really slow week 3, but one was really awesome, two is good, and last night was great in week 4, and hoping to continue that going into week 5. So yeah, without further ado, this is my week 5 showdown video between the LA Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks. So a little quick things to consider before I get into my video and the mindset I have right now. This is a rematch from 1 year ago. Week 5 in 2018, the Rams beat the Seahawks 33-31. Todd Gurley had 3 rushing touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, my man Cooper Kupp, won me a lot of money on Sunday. But Cooper Kupp, great guy, fantastic. And yeah, Davis had 1 rushing touchdown that game. Tyler Lockett had 1 receiving touchdown, and David Moore had 2 receiving touchdowns. And David Moore is someone who's no longer in the main rotation, top option, but he's someone that's still on the Seahawks and someone I'll be talking about later. The LA Rams are coming off 4 days of rest here. They put in a horrible defensive performance against the Redskins. Jared Goff got sacked twice, threw 3 interceptions. But Todd Gurley had 2 touchdowns, and Cooper Kupp, Cooks, Woods were all good. So there's a lot of things to talk about here. So without further ado, my favorite captain plays of the week. So Todd Gurley, running back, is my favorite captain back this week. The Seahawks have been terrible versus the running back. Last season he got 3 touchdowns against them, and he got 2 touchdowns last game. And he's in form. And I'm a firm believer of history repeating itself. And, with Jared Goff having to throw like 1,000 times last game, I expect him having to depend on Gurley a little bit more in the running game. So I really like Todd Gurley for those reasons. He's my favorite captain on the night, and he's pretty cheap compared to the other guys. Jared Goff's in play just simply because he's Jared Goff, and he's one of the top elite quarterbacks in the league. Last game, the defense really let them down, and Jared Goff did throw 3 interceptions, but he also threw 517 yards. He threw 2 interceptions versus the Seahawks in the last season game, week 5, and he has 5 interceptions so far this season. However, I feel Seattle is a little bit overrated. All the games they played so far, with the exception of last week's week 4 against Arizona, they're all been close games. And they even lost one. The 2 of them were against backup quarterbacks, and they lost one of the ones to the backup quarterback. So I think they're a little bit overrated here. And the only thing that worries me is the Rams' lack of rest. But Jared Goff has 4 targets that he can throw to, and the receivers so far this season have torched the Seahawks. In week 1, John Ross. Week 2, Juju was until the injury. Week 3, Kamara and Thomas, and then week 4, David Johnson on the Arizona Cardinals. All these guys torched the Seahawks, and they're all receivers, and Jared Goff has 3 great receivers to throw to. So I really like Jared Goff. And then all 3 receivers are viable for me in the captain spot. It's a little bit unfortunate, but they're all a threat. This is a triple threat. And if you include Gurley's receiving opportunities, they have 4, right? So, but my favorite pick out of these 3 would be Woods. 3 out of the 4 games this season, he's had more receptions, and he did well against them last year. So history repeating itself. I'm going with that as my main scenario. But all 3 of these guys are good options, and you should consider all 3 of them. Moving on to the Seahawks side, I'm starting with Russell Wilson, 15,900. Best start to a season in his career. Tyler Lockett and Will Dissly have been playing fantastically, and they've been the top 1 and 2 option for him. They've been consistent, and because of that, he's been performing well. He's coming off of a little bit of a slow week. They were against Arizona, and they didn't really have to do much. But Rams defense is also coming off of a beating, and they're going to be tired, and I'm liking the opportunity here for Russell Wilson. He did well against them last year. They lost by field goal, and he has rushing touchdown upside, because they're gonna be trying to They're gonna try to limit his throwing. They don't want him throwing 50 times a game, and I expect one way to accomplish that is to rush the ball or do it yourself. So if he doesn't do it, it's gonna have to fall to Chris Carson, who we'll talk about later. But yeah, Tyler Lockett's my next captain viable play on the Seahawks. He too is playing his best football of his career, I would say. He's really coming to his own here. He's the top option for Wilson on the season, and he didn't really have to do much versus the Cardinals. He's playing around 95% of the snaps, so he's always on the field. And he had a great game versus them last season, and history repeats itself. So he should see a significant increase in volume if the game turns into a shootout, and that's one of the scenarios I'm considering most. But if it doesn't, then Chris Carson would be my guy. But I like Tyler Lockett here, and then Will Dissly, 1 and 2 here options. He was the most targeted last week, and his targets have increased every single week. With Vanette gone, he's seeing 80% snaps, and Rams have been pretty good against tight ends this season, but they haven't seen someone with Dissly's usage. So there's multiple scenarios to consider here. I consider getting Dissly right on the slate one of the main things. Either because he's going to be pretty high owned in my opinion. So either you have him and he does good and you're happy, or you have him and he does bad and you're not happy. So there's four scenarios here with just one guy you have to consider. Build your lineups accordingly to those scenarios. Chris Carson, 12,300. He's coming off a great week. Rams have been mediocre. I spelled that wrong, against the running back, and I expect Carson to have a good game here. If they have to reduce the throwing for Wilson, then Carson's gonna be someone they're gonna have to depend on. History repeats itself, and I really like Chris Carson here. This guy is my sort of captain viable play, but he's not really sort of captain. He's pretty captain viable. DK Metcalf, he's the third option. All the other options are a lot safer than him, but he's 100% in play here. He hasn't had a lot good last 2 games per se, but he didn't really have to do much in the last game. He's the top 3 pass option for the Seahawks for a reason, and he's definitely someone you can put in your captain spot. So I'd consider DK Metcalf captain viable. So Seahawks flex plays. I like the Seahawks defense this week. I like them more than I don't like them. Jared Goff has thrown 5 interceptions on the season. He threw 2 against them last season in that game. So potentially here against the tired Rams team, I like him. Proceeds, even with Rashad Penny back, I still like him more than Penny. He has been good the last 2 weeks, and he's been working, and you shouldn't really change things that are working. So I think Proceeds for at least another week should be this RB number 2, and I like him. David Moore is 600 Draftkings dollar, and he's a viable play. He got 2 touchdowns against the Rams last season, and he's seen 2 targets in the last 2 games. So he's been getting the ball at least twice per game in the last 2 games, and he might get it again this game. And I said history repeats itself, and maybe this is the one that repeats itself, and he gets 2 touchdowns for $600. Like, what the heck? So he's not, in all seriousness, like, I have him yellow because it could very well happen. Not the 2 touchdown things, but he could make some plays, and, 600 drafting dollars showdown slate. You gotta consider players like these, or you're gonna be tying with 100 people, right? So David Moore, just like Samuels last night, 3.8% owned. Alright, Jaron Brown, 1,400. He saw 6 targets week 3. He saw 3 targets week 4, but that was against Arizona. Nobody had to do anything. He's a viable play for Showdown, and I like him more than I don't like him. So Jaron Brown, someone you should definitely consider as a flex. And Rashad Penny, he's coming back from an injury, 2-game injury absence. Technically should be the running back number 2, but coming back with the layoff against the Rams, with his price being what it is, I'm not really too fond of him. So, yeah, I'm not really fond of him, but you should consider him. Consider all these guys, but I'm personally not too fond of Penny. Moving to the Rams flex plays, Greg Zolarian is my favorite flex play. People don't like kickers. I love kickers. Kicker won me money last night. Kicker won me money week 1. So I love him for many reasons. Zolarian has seen 2 or more field goal attempts every game so far this season. And with the option Goff has, I feel like they should be in field goal range. And there should be a lot of field goal opportunities for Zolarian to capitalize on. I also think if it's a shootout of a game, then he's also going to have those touchdown extra points, right? So I like Zolarian in that regard. And then Higsby and Everett, both these guys are 1A, 1B tight ends. They both have been great and consistent. They're seeing equal amount of targets, and Everett's seeing a little bit more snaps, but they're both priced the same. They're both great, excellent options, and like Disley, these are 2 guys you have to consider and somewhat get right. They're good plays, and some you should consider. Someone I don't really like, but is in consideration, is Malcolm Brown. The Rams might have to resort to a run game because, when you throw 571 yards, that's not a normal thing. And then you're playing 4 days later. You're not getting the right amount of rest. So I don't really like I don't really like the scenario where the Rams don't throw the ball as much and try to run it more, but it's plausible that it happens. So Malcolm Brown is someone to consider. And then Josh Reynolds, 400. The only reason I mention him is he's seen 2 targets last week. He's seen 6 targets in total this season in 4 weeks. I don't think he played week 2. And he's seen 20% of the snaps. So roll the dice on this guy, $400. He just needs like a 1.6 or 2 Draftkings points to hit value for you. So he's someone that should be in play. And then the Rams defense, I don't really like the Rams defense this week. To be honest, I think they have like a 5% chance of them doing good. But it's the defense and it's the Rams, and you have to consider this in showdowns. Anything can happen in football, right? So depending on your scenario, this is my scenario. I personally don't like the Rams defense for this game. But hey, to each their own. These are my picks, my plays. Hope you guys like the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what I can do better. It really helps me out. And best of luck this week. I will be posting my top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends later on this week, so look for that. Best of luck this week, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.